what do you think of when you hear the word Alzheimer's?
I think Alzheimer's, is one of those power words that tends to take people's breath away. It's like saying someone has cancer. It's a serious condition, but I think that there's a lot of fear attached to it. I think in my work as a reporter over the last couple of decades, I have had a chance to meet a number of people who've been touched by the disease. And I think what's always surprising is that it can involve people at a very young age. And it also isn't something that everyone will get. I think that there's confusion between dementia and Alzheimer's.
What do you think of when you hear the word Alzheimer's?
When I think of the word Alzheimer's, it reminds me of my dad, how he used to get lost, and he would not be able to tell us what he wanted to do, and we'd always look at him and he was frustrated, and it would take him hours before then the question you asked him before, he would relate it to us a few hours later, and it would just hurt all of us. And it was so sad to see him, like he was in a different world of his own, and when he came out of it, he would be happy, but then he'd go back to it again, and it was very hurtful for the family, and it was hard for us to understand why he was doing all these things, and we couldn't figure out till finally the day came when he got tested, and they told us he had Alzheimer's.
When you hear the word Alzheimer's, what do you think of?
I think of someone who has obviously trouble even remembering who their immediate family members are at times. Somebody who's maybe indulging in some kind of obsessive behavior sometimes. Well, my mother-in-law, we think, probably had Alzheimer's, and what she would do is every day she would make sure she was gathering up a lot of sugar packets. And then she'd open them one by one and just suck the sugar in. And you couldn't really, you'd tell her, no, that's not good for you, you shouldn't do that. And she'd say, oh, yes, well, I see what you're saying. And then, like 5 minutes later, she'd be doing it again. That kind of thing. People are also quite irritable. Sometimes they'll have an outburst that seems like totally out of nowhere, and you're really hard pressed to think, like, what motivated that? Why is he or she doing that? So it's a very tough disease, I think, for family members to deal with. I know in my wife's case, she would get quite upset when my mother-in-law would say to her, she'd ask her questions like, "Do you belong to me?" Like she wouldn't remember really who she was, and that was disturbing. So it has obviously it takes a toll on the person suffering, and on the family members, and it kind of poses an interesting question as to, like, what is a human being? Because at the end of their lives, here are these people, and it seems like they've completely lost their sense of selfhood, if you like. Who is that person at this time? And I suppose, in some ways you have to say the person they were has become lost. And that's a difficult thing to deal with.